Welcome back, fans, to my ABCGH Spoilers channel. Cassius may have already crossed the line that no one in Port Charles can ever come back from, and what frightens me most is that I don't think he did it because he lost control. I think he did it because, for one cold and terrifying moment, he finally saw the entire board clearly. Cullum wasn't just a threat lying in a hospital bed. Cullum was the one loose end that could expose Rocco, destroy Lulu, break Britt, and reveal that the man pretending to be Nathan may be something far darker than anyone has dared to imagine. And if the whispers are even close to true, then Cassius did not simply shoot Ross Cullum to survive. It seems like he may have shot him because Cullum was about to become the one person who could drag every buried secret into the light. I keep going back to that hospital room in my mind, because it feels like the kind of place where General Hospital hides its most dangerous turning points. A man recovering from a shooting. Another man standing over him, wearing a face, a name, and a life that do not truly belong to him. On the surface, Cassius still looks like someone desperately trying to hold the role of Nathan together. He protects his tone, his reactions, his loyalties, and even his weaknesses. But underneath that performance, it's very likely that panic has been growing inside him for days. Cullum has been watching too closely. Cullum has seen the softness when Britt is involved. Cullum has seen the hesitation when Lulu's name enters the room. Cullum has seen the way Cassius keeps moving around Rocco like a guard dog circling a child who knows too much. This means that Cullum may not have needed a confession to know the truth. He may have only needed to watch Cassius long enough. No one would have guessed that the real danger to Cassius would not come from Anna, Dante, Jason, or even Britt. It could be that the danger was always Cullum's pride. A man like Cullum does not forgive being deceived, especially not by someone he already looks down on. And that is why I believe this confrontation was never going to end quietly. It seems like Cullum was inching closer and closer to the truth that Rocco was the one who shot him, and once Cassius realized that, every possible path out began to vanish. The truth could be much more complicated than a simple act of self-defense. I can imagine Cassius standing there and knowing that if Cullum lived long enough to speak, Rocco's entire future could collapse. Lulu would be pulled into the center of it. Dante would be devastated. Britt would be trapped between protecting a child and exposing a monster. And Cassius, the man pretending to be Nathan, would no longer be able to hide behind noble intentions. If only he had walked away at the first lie. If only he had refused to protect Rocco for reasons that were never entirely pure. If only he had not started believing that deception could become protection if he wrapped it in enough sacrifice. But that is where this story gets darker, because I don't think Cassius sees himself as a villain. It seems like he sees himself as the only person strong enough to do what everyone else is too weak to do. He may tell himself that Rocco is just a boy, that Lulu has suffered enough, that Britt deserves one person who will choose her family instead of judging it, and that Cullum was going to hurt all of them anyway. This means that, in Cassius's mind, the shot may not feel like murder. It may feel like prevention. It may feel like the terrible price of keeping a secret buried. And if Cullum really died in that room, the most chilling part is not the gunshot. It is what Cassius does afterward. Because Cassius is clever enough to understand that a dead body creates a story, and whoever controls the story controls the aftermath. It's very likely that he would not simply stand there waiting to be exposed. He would reshape the scene before anyone else could breathe. He would make Cullum the threat. He would make himself the target. He would make every hidden motive look like survival. And by revealing that Cullum may have been responsible for Marco's death, Cassius could turn a killing into a revelation. That kind of twist feels almost too perfect, and that is exactly why I do not trust it. It seems like Cassius may use one truth to bury another. Cullum being guilty of Marco's death could be real. It could be ugly. It could be the kind of secret that makes everyone in Port Charles decide Cassius did them a favor. But the truth could be much more complicated, because a real accusation can still be used as a smokescreen. Cassius might expose Cullum's crime not because justice matters, but because justice is the most convincing mask for fear. He may allow people to see Marco's blood on Cullum's hands so they stop looking for Rocco's fingerprints on the original shooting. No one would have guessed that Cassius could become a hero by committing the very act that proves how dangerous he is. That is the twisted beauty of this theory. The people around him may begin to soften. Lulu may look at him and see someone who protected her son from a predator. Britt may want to believe that her brother, or the man she is being forced to accept as something close to one, still has a moral boundary. Even Dante could be trapped in a nightmare where the evidence points one way, but his instincts pull another. It could be that Cassius's greatest weapon is not the gun. It is the emotional chaos he leaves behind. I also think Britt becomes the most dangerous person in this entire situation. She knows too much, and she feels too much, even when she pretends she does not. If she knows Rocco shot Cullum, then Cullum's sudden death would not look clean to her. It would look convenient. It would look like a door slamming shut right before someone could walk through it. And while Britt might understand why Cassius did it, understanding is not the same as forgiveness. It seems like she could be pulled into a silent war with him, one where she cannot expose him without risking Rocco, but she cannot trust him without risking everyone else. This means that Cassius may have saved Rocco from Cullum only to make Rocco dependent on his silence forever. That is the part I cannot stop thinking about. A child who already carries guilt may now be protected by a killing he never asked for. If only Rocco had never fired that shot. If only he had told the right person at the right time. But now, if Cassius has truly killed Cullum, Rocco's secret becomes heavier, not lighter. It could be that Cassius believes he has freed the boy, but in reality he may have chained him to a darker truth. And Lulu, I believe, is standing at the edge of heartbreak, without even realizing how deep the fall might be. She may see Cassius as someone complicated, someone dangerous, perhaps even someone who has shown unexpected tenderness. But if the man wearing Nathan's identity becomes the person who kills to protect her son, what is she supposed to feel? Gratitude? Horror? Suspicion? It seems like Lulu could be drawn into a terrifying emotional trap. The more Cassius protects Rocco, the harder it becomes for her to condemn him. The more he lies, the more she may need those lies to remain intact. The truth could be much more complicated than love or manipulation. It could be both. I wonder if Cassius has been preparing for this longer than anyone realizes. Maybe the Marco secret was not something he discovered at the last second. Maybe he held it back like an emergency weapon. Maybe he knew that if Cullum ever turned on him, he would need a story strong enough to survive the first wave of suspicion. It's very likely that Cassius understood one thing before anyone else did. People forgive violence more easily when they believe it ended a greater evil. And if he can make Cullum look like the greater evil, then the gunshot becomes almost invisible beneath the outrage. But the problem with a perfect lie is that it invites people to look closer. Anna will not ignore the timing forever. Jason may not believe in coincidences when Rocco's name keeps hovering around the edges. Dante may sense that too many people are protecting him from the truth. Britt may break in a moment of anger or grief. And Lulu may eventually realize that every time Cassius claims to be saving someone, someone else ends up silenced. No one would have guessed that Cullum's death might not end the danger, but instead open a deeper investigation into every move Cassius has made since he arrived in Port Charles. It could be that Cassius's real downfall will not come from evidence. It may come from emotion. He can control a crime scene. He can control a story. He can even control the way people underestimate him. But can he control Britt's fear? Can he control Lulu's instincts? Can he control Rocco's guilt? This means that the secret is not truly buried. It is alive inside everyone who knows a piece of it. And secrets in Port Charles do not stay dead just because someone dies beside them. Can he control Rocco's guilt? I also feel like Cullum may have left something behind. A file, a recording, a message, a contingency plan. A man as suspicious as Cullum would not walk into a confrontation with Cassius without some kind of insurance, unless arrogance blinded him completely. It seems like there could be one final trap waiting to spring after his death. Maybe Cullum already suspected Cassius was protecting Rocco. Maybe he had proof, but wanted to confront him first. Maybe someone else knows what Cullum knew and is waiting for the right moment to use it. The truth could be much more complicated than Cassius realizing he got away with it. And then there is Marco. If Cassius uses Marco's murder to justify Cullum's death, then Marco becomes more than a victim. He becomes the shield Cassius hides behind. But what if Marco's death is connected to Rocco's secret in a way no one has considered? What if Cullum, Marco, Cassius, and the entire fake Nathan scheme are all part of a larger design? It's very likely that the writers are not done with the Faison legacy, and when that name is involved, nothing is ever only about one crime. Faison's shadow turns every act of protection into something contaminated. Cassius may think he is proving he is not his father, but every lie, every manipulation, every carefully staged act of violence may be pulling him closer to the very darkness he claims to reject. That is why this possible twist feels so dangerous. Cassius could walk out of Cullum's death with sympathy, protection, and even admiration. People may call him brave. They may say he stopped a killer. They may believe he risked everything to expose Marco's murderer. But I would keep watching his eyes. I would keep watching the way he reacts when Rocco's name is mentioned. I would keep watching Britt, because she may be the only one who can see the difference between sacrifice and control. And I would keep watching Lulu, because if Cassius begins to believe that killing Cullum brought him closer to the family he wants, then there may be no limit to what he will do next. It seems like Port Charles may be preparing to crown Cassius as a reluctant hero, but I cannot shake the feeling that this is exactly what makes him more dangerous. A villain in hiding is one thing. A killer protected by gratitude is something else entirely. If only someone had seen the truth before Cullum ended up dead. If only Rocco's secret had been exposed before Cassius could turn it into leverage. But now the blood is on the floor, the explanation is already forming, and the people who should be asking questions may be too shaken to notice the one thing that matters most. Because if Cassius really fired first, and if Cullum really died before revealing what he knew, then the secret about Rocco has not disappeared. It has only been buried under another body. And I have to wonder, when the next crack appears, will everyone finally see Cassius as the man who protected a child, or as the man who realized that murder was the easiest way to keep playing Nathan?